Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Healing Home. I'm your host, Michelle, and look, I'm holding the mic in my hands. I've been noticing that since Mario and I started our last Thursday stream, that holding the mic feels more natural and more free or something. And I found that when I have a mic stand, I feel a little more stiff and like I don't allow myself to, I don't know, flow as much. It's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought that that was the issue or that was a thing. Not like I was having an issue with a mic stand, but anyway, just the free form thing of the mic, holding the mic has been really cool. So, anyway, happy new year to everyone. We are on the first day of spring. No, regardless of how you look at it, it is spring, it is sprung, and you can feel it in the air, and it's really exciting. The weather here has been really glorious in the Pacific Northwest. We've had some really nice weather to usher in this new time of year. And with all that said, I'm very pleased to be talking with my friend Gordy today. And I feel like it's appropriate, just as we're going to be talking about owls, his connection with owls, what he's learned about them, all the things he does to work with them and get to know them better. And, lots of birds are either about to lay eggs or they're incubating eggs because they're going to be bringing in this new life into the world, just like spring is going to bring in all this new life into our worlds with plants and all sorts of critters and stuff like that. So, without further ado, I want you guys to all help me in welcoming Gordy Two Shoes to the stream. Hello, Gordy.
Hey, Michelle. How are you? Thank you for doing this. This is going to be fun.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
You're getting me talking about owls. I'll do it all day. I'll show up.
I know it, man. That's why I knew. I got you pegged a little bit on that one.
Bro, I mean, I'm an easy mark for that. I mean, look at this. This was last week, I think, maybe. So I have a game cam on the nest of Gwen, the great horned owl, and she's allowed me to put this on there the last 2 years. And I've actually been with them for 4 years and seen this is the fourth clutch of eggs that she is laying on right now. So
Wow.
it's pretty cool.
That is so cool. I know. I love that background. I've just loved watching your progress with them and seeing them. Gosh, they're such amazing creatures. They have such a presence. They really have this human-like presence like no other bird, in my opinion. Just seeing images of them and feeling their energy is like, wow, I see a human in there. It's really
More
great.
than,
Yeah, that's true. Yes, totally.
it's when you see, so I have footage on my Instagram of Gwen using a rock as a tool. It's like she is purposely using this rock in the nest as a counterbalance, and it fits just between her. She picked out this rock specifically. There are all sorts of rocks in there that she had cleared out before she nested or when she nested, but this one rock she saved. Like it's in there now, and she's using it as like just to get the right settle on the eggs where it's just right, And so I'm like, this is mind blowing to me. Like, I hope other people have witnessed this. I don't know, but it's there. And the relationship between the male and female is such a trip. Like, I'm finding right now that she is being fed every 2 hours by the male. Right now, she is not leaving the nest at all, but he'll come out, hoot at her, signal to her. She'll call back. She leaves for 2 minutes to 5 minutes max. She comes back in, licking her chops, and settles back down on the eggs.
Wow. That's so cool. That is such a cool detail about the rock, her finding the like balance in that. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Like these things, they are more than they have taught me. I mean, so
Yeah.
much. I don't know how to even start from there. I'm trying to like just experience it and gather it at the same time and learn from it is like this balance, that I'm trying to find to put it in some sort of way to share it to people. But this Instagram thing is kind of fun because I can it kind of forces me to put the feeling into like a 19-second shot, you know?
Yep.
And so I'm really having fun finding the right music to go with those shots, that really give the mood of being with them. I mean, you really can't until you've actually gone eye to eye with one of them and like feel like your soul is being examined, 'Cause, I mean, this is the sweet end of this owl, they are extremely intimidating. And they can pick up a 9-pound chihuahua. I mean, they're just so powerful, when you're in their presence. And then these guys let me like 4 feet away now. And it's
Yeah.
family.
That is so cool. I mean, the amount of trust that you've built up with them over the years, it's just like a relationship with an actual person. It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes we have relationships where we freely give away things too soon or, we're too trusting or whatever.
Mhm.
But over time, you learn that you have to have boundaries before you put all your eggs in one basket or whatever. And I feel like you're doing that. You've cultivated that with these owls. And to me, it's just so obvious, even over the short amount of time, which has been about a year that I've gotten to know you, being able to see even the progress you've made with them just in that amount of time has been really cool. And to see the footage that you're sharing, and I just feel like you have a way of tapping in with them. And I think just like we're chosen to align with certain things in life, as I find that with plants or nature, you're finding that with the owls, and it's a passion, and I can feel it and I sense it in you, and it's really cool. And that's one of the main reasons you're here today, because I feel this strong amount of love you have for these birds, and it's really awesome. And so, if you want to, for people that might not know your story with the owls, if you want to just go over a little bit of how you came to find these birds and how you started to connect with them, if you want to share that with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's my favorite part.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, because I wouldn't really literally be here if it probably weren't for the owls. Um,
Yeah, I
I'm
love this.
sorry.
You're good, Gordy. No, it's all good. This is why I started the show. This is the healing home, baby. This is the healing home, and these are the things that allow us to blossom into the people that we're supposed to be while we're here in this realm. And so I welcome these moments where it gets tense. You get to that moment where you're like, wow, this is the reason I'm here right now. And so just know you're in good company and take your time, and the owls are with you. They're with you.
That's true, always.
Yes. Yes.
Um, so in 2018, I was suicidal. I was that depressed. Um, I had been diagnosed with a brain tumor and in 2014, and it was kind of hitting a peak where I was using opiates and alcohol just to deal, which was just killing any motivation I had for anything. And they had me on 22 different medications at the same time. I didn't take all those at the same time, of course, but I was on dozens for uh, um, migraines and back pains and all these things that they just were just throwing more drugs and more drugs and more drugs at, right? So, and that once you start that ball rolling, it's damn near impossible without getting off everything without some serious help, because you're gonna go through a lot of withdrawals for doing it for that long, right? So anyway, I was suicidal. I had to get help. I had to throw myself on the mercy of the medical system, or what? Not the medical system. I wasn't trusting them anymore because they wanted to cut my brain open. I'm like, fuck that. I'm gonna go get off this shit and heal it myself if it kills me, because that's the other choice. It's either they, cut a piece of my brain open, and I've seen how that goes, not well, and or suicide. I was doing that anyway, and I was drinking myself to death, so I was almost there. So I go into a mental health facility for a week to make sure, just to stabilize, because I know I've got to detox after this. Because I mean, once you've made that public that you're suicidal, they can petition you. Someone can have you petitioned if you don't get that help to a medical professional. I was in the ER, and anyway, spent a week in the mental hospital. After that, I had to go to a rehab out of state because the people here wouldn't allow the sleeping masks and all the shit that I was doing. And it was probably a really good thing not to be in town, with people you may run into. So I went into out of state, did the whole 30-day thing, came back. And once anybody who's ever had to do that process, you're coming back you better come back with a clean slate. If you don't, you're just resisting what the healing that you're already in such desperate need of. Oh, I mean, it's do or die right now, right? So I come back and I'm like, okay, I've got to get back to work. Thank God I had a job to keep me busy when I got back, that they stuck around, because it was worthless. But I had this reset, and it allowed me, for the first time, I told my trauma. I was able to acknowledge my trauma, which was the root cause of it. And that's when I knew I could do something about it. And that's when I was finally empowered, I think, to do the hard work that I knew it was going to take to just figure out what the fuck was wrong, because my brain wasn't working anymore. Like, I really was at the point where I couldn't think my way out of a wet paper bag. And I used to think of myself as a smart guy. Like, you didn't have a fucking degree and worked in aerospace. You couldn't have been an idiot, So, but the brain fog and probably at the time of the brain damage of all the opiates and benzos and whatever they were throwing at you. Like, I had to repair that shit. So I came back, I figured out that my wife figured this out. A ketogenic diet in the 40s was developed to treat epilepsy and brain disorders. And so I was like, oh, right. I had heard this doctor, this Canadian doctor. Somebody had said his name and I can't remember it right now. But at any rate, he was promoting this high fat diet, that your brain is made of fats and cholesterols, and that your whole nervous system is actually sheathed in this, these fats and cholesterols that your body needs to rebuild itself. So I focused on that and meditating. Like, okay, there's a tree outside my work. And this tree is this great acacia tree. But it's right next to this like real dump it's not a dump. I have a lot of affection for this place. I love it. Don't anybody ever touch it. Go stay far away. Don't come here. But it's kind of an old ruin from an old assay office, that's been converted. And it's kind of junky, so nobody went there. And this tree was perfect, had a cinder block under it. And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's perfect. I can go there in the morning. If I'm going to make a concerted effort to do this meditation thing, I'm going to do it for, 15 minutes a day and just, whatever, try and get out of my head before I take somebody else's head off, that doesn't deserve it, So I started doing that. And right away, immediately, I feel like I'm being watched in this tree. And I look up and there's two big great horned owls in this tree. And I'm like, oh, like they are intimidating. Like when you're close with them, like it's scary. And they're just, 6-8 feet up in the tree. And they're staring right at you. It's hard not to lock eyes with an owl staring right at you, So we lock. I'm like, oh my God, like I better get my cool because I know this much about owls that they probably can feel my vibe a lot better than I can. So if I'm going in with tension and anxiety and whatever, you better figure that shit out quick or they're going to, either chase you out if they're nesting, or, they'll leave. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, and I've understood that kind of animal whispering kind of idea too, because my family were horse people. They were ranchers. And I have my sister has, I think she's actually gotten trained by that famous horse whisperer guy, but I know some of the people that my family has. Anyway, I knew the concept. All right. I'm like, okay. So if I can be on their level of whatever that animal is, it's clearly not a horse, but you kind of chill your vibe down because, the next night I am immediately reading all about owls, and how they can hear and how they can hear your heartbeat. That's
incredible.
part of how they hunt by sound. It is by, they have those incredible eyes that the discs, shoot the light in, but they also funnel the sound to the ears, like Mario was talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Funnels the sound to the ears, but the ears are also offset from each other. So they have this extra degree of triangulation that no other bird of prey has. And so they have this, and they're the silent flyers. In fact, I kept trying to upload this video on Instagram. I'll do it after this, but of Gwen taking off, and you can't hear it. And it's just magical. Like I'll be sitting there and you blink for like 5 seconds, and they disappear, like as you're looking at them, because they're quiet and they know. I'm sure she's like reading, when he's gonna blink, I disappear. Like duh. Like she probably knows the stuff I'm going to do before I do it.
Oh, big time. Yes.
Like, so the thing that makes them silent is those feathers, and they have this fine down. Oh, I should have brought some in there. They're in the other room, but they have this really fine down of their feathers are actually made differently than other birds. They and that fine down also gives them an extra sensitivity to the air. Like if you look at an owl's feet, it's fur, it's furry, and they almost look like a mammal with like giant talons.
Yes, that's one of the human-like things that I've noticed about them is their feet, actually, and how thick their ankles and their legs are.
Yeah, and strong, like amazingly strong for how light they weigh. I can't remember what they're like 4 or 5 pounds max or something. Like
Wow,
my
oh my goodness.
Chihuahua is bigger than that.
So if they can pick up a 9-pound Chihuahua, like you were saying, and they're only 4 pounds, that's pretty
Yeah.
incredible. Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's the strength of their hollow bones too. They're stronger. Most birds of prey are that way though. They have a stronger fiber in their bones that makes them strong, but they're still weak. They get hit by cars all the time, and sometimes, and get they're still a bird. That's what's amazing. Like especially watching her this year, because she's such a good mother, and she like rolls those eggs around in the nest with those hairy feet, so gentle. And every 2 hours she just gets up and does it, but looks like a dragon. She'll like look at the camera and like she's scolding you. I know you're watching me. Which I actually got. I had think you if you ever talk to Catherine O'Shea, she's
Oh,
wonderful. She
he's great. Yes.
she connected me with them and really set me off to really try and connect with them, because when I first started doing this, I'll go back. I'll come back there to that point, because I do want to get to that point in the story. Anyway, at the same time, so that nailed like as soon as that connection happened, I'm like, oh, wow, I know this is a special connection. I'm not going to take this for granted, and I'm really going to do this. So that meditation, like, I didn't do it every day. And I've gone through the 4 years, like doing it, being more on than off, but I still do it almost every day that I can. And at the same time, that discipline of being present in my body was the big thing. And that was what helped me get the chill, being present. It's like that one thing I learned in rehab, that Buddhist thing. You read these things in philosophy, and they don't really hit until you have to actually deal with them,
Totally. Yep.
And it's like, oh shit, that's right. The Buddha thing with the nectarine or whatever it is, the orange, where you're eating every single, as you're biting into the orange, you're feeling each cell of the membrane and the juices pop as you chew it. When you're eating, connect to the texture and the taste and the smell, be in your body as you're doing this, and you'll be way more mindful of what you put in your face, what you put in your body. And I just gotten 30 days clean. I was not about to fuck that up. And my sober date, by the way, is 11/11.
Ooh, that's a
Isn't
powerful
that
one.
crazy? I didn't
Yeah.
think about that until like years later. I was like, oh shit. Like I knew it, but then you're like,
Whoa.
wow. So at
Yeah,
any rate.
that is initiation, like, no, I mean, that is totally initiation. Well, and then it connects to the owls too, because the owls are all about, like, kinda like the underworld, the underground, and then, 1111 is Scorpio, which is all about
Mhm.
the depths, the dark, that
Mhm.
that base that base energy that we all have that, you know and then keeping on the theme of being connected to your body, when you are unconnected to your body, your base chakra stuff is usually the stuff that kind of comes up first. It's like the addiction, the passionate, the impulsive behavior, the more animalistic stuff can come through more easily when you're disconnected. And
Mhm.
so anyway, that's what comes to mind when you say 1111.
Yeah.
That's very special, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, all these layers just add another level of depth that I love talking about this, and I will. That's why I just make myself available, and now for these things, and I love that when they come up that we can like exchange these stories. Like I lost 95 pounds in like maybe 6 months after that because
Wow.
I was I lost 55, I think, within the first 2 months, 60 days. And after that, it was 95 pounds. And I was like, oh man, I need to like really, that was a little far, and I'm like sagging skin and it feels like my face is sliding off. It was that dramatic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, I've never looked like this. Like I was always kind of a pudgy kid, but I wasn't fat. Before I went into rehab, I was 250.
Okay. Yep.
And so by the next summer, I was 155 and trying to figure out to come back up, and find my, like being in your body, finding how to, and I was walking a lot. Those owls, that was another thing. Those owls got me outside. And thank God I have that desert in that place where I worked. And here's the thing that, I like the idea of me being the owl whisperer. Because I love that Chance and Mario have like put that. I guess it is. I'm like I was thinking about it because Adam on Ad Infinitum on Instagram was like, "You come to the owl whisperer." I'm like, no, they whispered me. And then I'm thinking, oh no, I guess it's a mutual thing. That's the
Right.
thing. And it has to be. Like, this is how we get over the shit is we have to be in balance, you know, with the natural world and with our bodies. And I'd never been so disconnected because I work in IT now. Like I worked in tech and government contracting and stuff like that before. I never, I was the smart indoor kid who didn't have to uh, work probably as hard as I probably should have, you know, learn that lesson a little later. Anyway, but, if I wasn't there, I wouldn't be where I am now. And thank God, right?
Oh
Like
gosh, yeah.
we were talking about this in the conspiratorium last night is my Monday morning group, and we just do a live. And Sean and I were talking about this of how if we haven't, we cherish those hard moments now. Once we've grown out of them, like once you've actually done the integration or whatever, like the shadow work. I hate these stupid words that we have to rely on to for these ideas, and they never work right. But you know what I'm talking about. You know,
Oh, yes.
you your worst, your biggest journey is within,
Yep.
and getting out of your own way. So another thing that happened during that reset that I love to include this because this is a big part of it, was doing a 3-day fast and meditation under that tree with those owls looking at me the whole time. That'll get you, so on the, I knew that, there was going to be this kind of euphoric kind of thing because I really needed to reset, like my body. I had to do the full cleanse, if I was cleansing of all the meds, which, you still have, I was on for opiates for over 10 years. This takes a long time to get out of your system. I was still having Joneses or symptoms like a year later because you will jump. I was having seizures. So anyway, I was gonna hit it hard and do a fast and then do a complete elimination diet, from zero. Just start on just meat and vegetable and try and work your way back into something else, because my wife had this suspicion for a long time that I was celiac, that I was reacting to wheat. And I'm like, oh, right. So kick that one out first. And that was huge. And now kind of playing with other vegetables and foods, we're spending more for meat and vegetable, and produce, you getting the better ingredients actually is cheaper in the long run because you have to figure out how to use those simple materials, right? Because when you're like, okay, I've got butter, I've got dairy and meat and vegetable, and only like a few of those are working for me. So I need to get creative of how I cook that shit, right? Because I'm gonna get burned out on that like tomorrow. So like one of the big things is putting that intention into your food. When you start cooking for yourself, you realize like, oh, like immediately, like that kitchen witch shit, like, boom, that's real. I started making my coffee that way, blessing my water and singing to my food. And immediately it's like, oh my God, it's working, whether it's just the intention of what I'm doing to the, because of I'm taking more care. I don't care. It's actually working. I can call it magic because it actually does do a little bit more than what anybody else says is supposed to be achievable. You know what I mean? You're getting better results. And if that's because of my intention of doing it, who cares how? But at any rate, that was a powerful lesson, of being very mindful of everything, being mindful of being with the owls, being mindful of what I put in my body, being mindful of how I'm dealing with my spouse. We've been married for 30 years.
Congratulations.
And it's, she's been through everything with me, man. Like she's amazing. And I hope one day she'll share her part of the story, but she's a trooper, man. She saved my life with that, figuring out that diet and getting me the help I needed, because I was, her experience in mental health helped, she knew the right channels. If it wasn't for that, I've heard horror stories of people in rehabs. And I can see how that happens because being in a a behavioral health center for a 5-day lockup because you're unstable, that shit gets real fast.
Oh, I can only imagine. Like there's no way it can't.
Right.
And if it doesn't
Right.
on your end, it's like it's
Yeah.
on your end,
Yeah.
because that kind of stuff, I mean, that's like any stories you hear from somebody, they were sent to the jail or something like that, because of all the things that they've been up to or doing. Most of the time, that's when it does get real enough for somebody to be like, okay, so we got to do some stuff here. Not for everybody, and not
Yeah.
everybody's ready. Not everybody's ready for it to get real. And that's the
Not
thing you
every,
have to.
Not all of your professionals are ready for it to get real.
That's very true, actually. They're not equipped. They're not
They're not
taught
equipped.
to
And
be
it's
equipped.
exactly. They're not
Yeah.
kind of not their fault, but it is. I mean, it is, but you know what I'm saying? Like they don't know until I have freaked out some counselors with real shit. So, I mean, sometimes it's even the professionals that are there supposedly to help you are not, it's just out of their depth, and it's getting more and more out of their depth the more we are having the changes that are happening. Like people are finding there's a shift going on like fucking crazy, right? I mean, we are connecting people like you and me, like just all these, and there's another word that doesn't, like, people who are playing with magic are experiencing, a greater reality that we're trying to help other people do. And hey guys, I love you all in the chat. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. But seeing beyond ourselves, being outside, being able to look at yourself outside of yourself, being objective in just even a little sense of maybe I treated that person shitty today. Yeah, I should fix it. Or to the extent of, holy shit, the universe is not what we were taught, Forget everything you think you know and start from scratch.
Yep, I agree. And that's a good way of saying it, of just being able to see yourself from outside yourself. What's up, Snake Jones? Haven't seen you in a while,
Hey, buddy. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes, because, and just like you said, even if you can just take the moment to be like, wow, I actually was kind of crappy to that person. What does that say about me? Because
Mhm.
it's usually not the person that, yes, people do bad things or they might cross you or whatever. But, one of the things Mario and I always talk about, and I always appreciate the reminder, is it's not the actual event, it's the way you react to the event that takes place. It's your emotional reaction to the situation that is going to determine so many things. And if you're unable to detach enough to look at yourself and look at even just your daily habits and what you're doing and how you react to them, if you're unable to do that, if you haven't gotten to that point, things are more challenging to figure out. And then you might start to feel like, oh, everything's stacking on top of of everything. And then you can easily slip into victim mentality when you are just constantly projecting the problem onto someone else or, whatever, and so, yeah, it's a very important thing to learn in life. And, as you said, being with your wife for as long as you have, and we have these, you found the owls being a totem. Your wife is a totem for you. And like, it's so cool and interesting to just go through your life and acknowledge the people that have been totems, in the past, present. You're going to have totems in the future, and the lessons that all people in your life, good or bad, that have brought you to like get you to the point you're at. It's just a beautiful thing. And I too feel that there's been a shift happening for quite a while, but right now it's really intense. And one of the things I've thought about is like, one of my rabbit holes lately has been this whole electroculture
Mm.
practice for the garden. And
Oh.
so I learned about this years ago, right? In a book, in a gardening book that I have. And basically, just in a nutshell, the concept is that using metals, particularly copper, but you can use any metal with a grounding wire to put into your garden to literally just collect the natural free energy in the ether that is available to us to harness, to bring down into your plants, into the roots of the plants, to accelerate growth, to keep pests
Mm.
away, to they become more hardy, so they're more drought resistant, all of these things, right? And I've just been really looking into it. I've been putting it into practice, whatever. And I had the thought the other day where I was like, wow, this was really popular like back in the day, like Tartaria sort
Mm.
of times. And also during like the Great Depression, when there were food shortages, where there were people that were really like, we have to figure out how we're going to feed ourselves because there's food shortages. And it's funny to see when these practices like electroculture were really important. And all of a sudden, there's this huge wave of it coming back now. And there's more people starting to talk about it. You can find it more easily online, although there's been people that have been talking about it for a long time or whatever. But I'm noticing that it's like coming back. And so it's almost like a symptom of our reality right now. It's kind of like it's like, wow, okay, so all these things were popular back in the Tartarian times.
Right.
Then when the depression came through and people were starting to hunker down and realize we need to like take this shit into our own hands. And we're going through another cycle of that sort of same energy. And so to me, it kind of was like, whoa, I think that that's one of the reasons why this is totally coming back online for people. And so anyway, just really interesting. And that's been one of my huge, like, thoughts that I've spun over the last couple days.
That's awesome. No, that makes so much sense, dude. So, one of the things that the owl sent me down was learning from the falconers, like reading falconry stuff and getting on those blogs and learning from those guys of how they interact with the birds of prey naturally. Because some of these guys just go out and take a hawk. They'll trap several hawks, and you can actually train a team of Harris hawks to work as like a hunting team, like wolves. They're amazing. And these are the things I've learned from them. But there's this idea in some of the falconry circles that owls are dumb. I'm like, wow. Like,
Oop, I think Gordy, you're frozen here. Well, we'll see. We'll give it a second. I'm seeing people say, Hank confirming no iron in electroculture. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I shouldn't say any metal. I have heard though, is iron used for the grounding part of it? I'm kind of still trying to figure that out because I heard if iron will ground it, but I'm learning galvanized steel will be the ground with magnets. Gordy, you back?
I think I'm back.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, you're here. All right.
Okay.
Sweet. It's all good.
What were we talking about?
Okay. What were we thinking?
Electroculture.
Yeah, but there was something that you were going, okay, wait. The owls being looked at as dumb.
Oh, right. And the falconer,
Yes.
because they couldn't bend them to your will. That's the one thing about owls is they definitely have a will of their own. They kind of look like a cat and they kind of act like it. Like they don't give a fuck what you're doing. This is the coolest thing about being around an owl and having to, because being around them, you have to assume their countenance. Does that make sense? They're not gonna act like you like a dog does. You better act like them or you're not invited to the party, bro. So you just gotta chill, be patient, and spend some time. Just chill. Freaking shut the fuck up. Sit by the fire. It's all right to be quiet. And it's definitely all right to quiet your mind sometimes. We need it. We need to learn to teach our children to do that again. And so, talking about Tartaria, the Tingrenism, thank you, Joshua the Branch, for throwing me on this thread again. That, the faith of the Mongols was a shamanistic belief, kind of similar to a Dagda kind of nature spirit kind of thing. But those were the times, and this is that you're talking about that Tartaria thing.
Yep.
A lot of that is kind of like was part of that. I think the wisdom that was falconry started was those guys in the ancient times where it had this connection to nature, that we've lost. But it's, it developed. We had these relationships with animals, and not just birds of prey to do these things with. This is when they first domesticated the dog and the cat, or the cat domesticated us probably. But, and I get it. Like now, like trying to be an owl, I feel myself like sitting in social situations, like being quiet and like not figuring out like, what are these people doing? Like, these are not part of my species anymore, And I'm like, oh, because I'm an owl. I mean, I'm just kidding, but like, you put your intentions out there and you become what you love, or love what you become. And we kind of need both those things to get there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the whole concept of spirit animals and what
Dude,
that means.
come on. So
Yeah.
spirit animal, like, I mean, could it be more clear? Like, you Google spirit meaning of owls, it's rebirth, it's dropping all illusions, it's all these things, even the Hopi Kachina, that's the gray horned owl, the Mangwa, he's the one that comes down and beats the drunks so that they'll sober up. He sobers up the drunks so that they'll be productive members of the tribe again.
Wow.
Like them getting like having to focus on that and getting clean like that. Like I say, I feel like it saved my life, but I feel like also they've been calling me, because I realize they've been coming to the house for a long time, owls. And they come to my house and hoot down our chimney like on a regular basis. And I've caught her on, I think I've shared it on Instagram, but she'll hoot down. I go outside, start filming her, and she'll like do one more hoot and just take off, like scolding me for not coming or something, not being out there, because I walk out in the desert to connect with them to see if they'll follow me, because to see if we'll have that kind of connection now. And so come to find out, this is a different set of owls here. There's another set. I just call her grandmother, and I don't, just because they've been coming before I realized, because my wife reminded me, she's like, don't you remember? It like started like 10 years ago. I'm like, what? She goes, Hope, our daughter, would come out. She's like, we'd get up and in the morning and watch cartoons, and the owl would be just hooting down the chimney, waking us all up. And I'm like, oh my God, that's right. I forgot.
Wow.
I didn't realize, like, this has been going on a long time and I've not been paying attention. How do you not see that as magic?
Well, when you're not connected, you're just not connected.
Right.
It's just like the saying, you don't know what you don't know, and it's just,
Right.
These are the things that we come to learn in time and we come to notice. And usually, the things that are most required for our healing or what have you are literally right under our noses. And it
Mhm.
kind of goes back to that whole concept of like all the healing that you need to do is going to be done within. There's going to be
Mhm.
external, there's going to be people that support you, there's going to be animals that come in, there's going to be things that worked and didn't work, but at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's already in within you. And it's like part of the healing is finding out that it's within you, you know.
Yeah.
So, and the owls were just there because they too were just like almost they probably played the role of like, oh, we know that he doesn't notice us yet. We know, like we know he's not noticing, but we're still gonna be here because
Right.
then you're gonna at one point have this epiphany going, oh my God, they've been here this whole time. Wow, which is
Yeah.
gonna make it even more impactful. It's like part of their lesson.
Yeah, and just, the other thing of just paying attention, and I think more of us would see the magic if we just pay attention. Sorry if my dog is making noise.
Oh, it's
She
okay.
she's she's like elderly and demanding when I'm on these. But
Yeah.
the uh like the synchronicities, like this little thing. It's a little token that I don't know how it got there, but it was in a random random work van. But it was the random work van that I was going to use that day. And it's an owl golf marker. It's like a little
Wow.
coin.
I'm trying to full screen you, but my
Oh,
internet is
sorry.
slow, so
Yeah.
we'll see. It might go to full screen, but I don't know. It looks like not.
Yeah, anyway, that's okay. You can
It
see it.
comes
It's an
through.
owl. Yeah. But finding those synchronicities like that would be a synchronicity. It's
Yes.
way more than a synchronicity. This is way more than a synchronicity. Like on the third day of that fast, I had a it was, and many people have this on the third day or that euphoria.
Yep.
But I think it kicked it into extra gear because, meditating under an acacia, which also has an amount of DMT to this tree. It occurs naturally. Like I had what I see now as a psychedelic experience because I was out there walking and talking to the plants and the animals, and the trees are talking to me, you know, but I
Wow.
wasn't really on anything. I was just the euphoria, I think, of being off everything. And finally, for once in my life, having a clear head,
Right.
you know, and who knows, my whole life I've been fighting with this, this eating this shitty food, and then we're making ourselves dumber and dumber and dumber with this stuff, and drinking monsters and just these chemicals and this garbage. Just again, being mindful. You know, it doesn't take that. It's not that hard to read a label, so you probably should do it. If you don't know that thing, you should read what you're putting in, and research and where it comes from.
Yeah, definitely. It makes such a big difference. I mean, I've been so adjusted to reading food labels for I can't even remember. I mean, for long time. I mean, a long time.
Mhm.
And so it's just now I can't even imagine not reading a label when I buy something. It's the first
Mhm.
thing I do. It doesn't even matter what the product is. Even sometimes labels I've already looked at. You go to the grocery store, you usually have staple things that you always buy.
Yeah.
I find myself sometimes even those staple items reading the label still. And I think it's just a habit thing now, and it doesn't happen all the time, but I will sometimes realize that. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. I'm reading the label. I already know what's in here or whatever. But, you never know. Did they change the recipe?
Exactly. That
Did the
happens.
label,
That's a good thing to do.
it really is because it does happen where they do
Mhm.
change stuff and they put it on there, whatever. And I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in food that they don't even put on the label or whatever it is. But
Right.
yeah, that's one of my big things when I go to the grocery store because I too have had a weight loss accomplishment in my life. And so food has always been a thing for me. It still is something I have to be very mindful of, because I can sometimes be an emotional eater. I've used it as a crutch before.
Mm.
I know when I'm like slipping into those old habits that I've had to work really hard to, stay in line with. And so when I'm at the grocery store, I feel like I'm very present. I'm very present for a lot of reasons, because there's a lot of people around and all this
Hmm.
stuff. But I'm very observant of other people's behavior in the grocery store, because it says a lot when you watch a person. It's not like I'm standing there watching
Me
everyone like a
too.
creep,
Right.
but just to watch how people put food into their cart. The amount of people that I watch just take a bag of salad
Just
and just chuck
mindlessly,
it in. Just
flunk,
chuck it in. Yeah, like it's like a freaking rock
like
that you.
color. It's pretty. Like,
Yeah, I'm like,
really? Okay. And
yeah.
I used to do that. I loved Monster cereal.
No, totally. And it's like we've all been there when
Right?
whatever, but just to see the amount of people just throw the food in, like it's like, oh, whatever. And then they walk on and they take another item and just throw it in. There's such a level of there's no respect there. I see a disrespect in the way people even put food into their carts, and then the way that it's second nature that you can go to the grocery store and grab whatever you need or whatever. It's just really interesting. And it's an
Yeah.
interesting thing that I've observed over the years, and having to be more mindful with food. It's, as challenging as it is, and sometimes wishing, I could eat whatever I want or whatever, and this and that. And it's like, actually, this is part of me, and it's part of the thing that I've had to be attentive to for a reason. And I think it's a blessing in disguise, actually, because when you can just eat whatever you want, on the outside, you might look okay, but what's really going on? And then all of that kind of behavior eventually catches up with everybody at some point in their life. And so it's just really interesting to kind of observe people's behaviors with food and their relationship with it. And I think a lot of people not a lot of people, but I think in society, in general, people are kind of taught to even just not think about it.
Hmm.
It's not talked
Right.
about in school really about how important it is and stuff like that. So,
Your doctor certainly won't suggest it. They won't
nope,
get you on. They won't help you with that.
no,
That'll
uh,
fix you right there. That'll
exactly.
fix a lot of your health problems right there.
Totally. And that's one of the things that, I also learned too. And even with our cat, we did a episode with
Yeah.
cat folklore and health. And it's like, dude, just seeing the difference in your animals when you start to feed them correctly and what they really are supposed to be eating, it's like night and day. And it takes a little while, just like it takes a little while with humans. It's like you're not just going to lose weight overnight. You can lose weight quickly depending on what's going on, but like it's an everyday struggle,
Hmm.
challenge, whatever, and it's even a challenge to kind of sometimes even stay on top of it with your animals, because sometimes it's a little more expensive or this or that. And it's a
Hmm.
sacrifice, if you're gonna, I look at it like if you are gonna have animals and do that whole thing, it's worth really paying attention to the things that you put into their body, for obvious reasons. But it's like it's a
Yeah.
responsibility. Take
Right.
responsibility for,
For yourself, like literally at the
yes.
core, like at the very minimum, it's the least you have control of, or the most you have control of. We
Mhm.
don't have control of a lot of shit in our lives, but you can control what you put in your face. So, I mean, if you can control one thing, because that's what a lot of addiction is about, because we're out of our depth of control. We don't have the coping mechanisms. So we lose control and we get anxiety and all that kind of stuff. And so a lot of addiction is at the root of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just the self-control that really is needed in order to do these things is also not something that's talked about or taught to
Right.
people, in the general community or education system or whatever. If you were lucky enough to be homeschooled or have parents that knew these things and passed it down, that's amazing. It should be cherished because it's not really emphasized how addictive some of the things that are everyday things could be for people, in general. So it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you find your weight loss? Like
Oh,
what did you find that worked for you? Because you eat bread, you do a lot of breads and stuff too, right?
yeah, not a lot, but we still like I'll make sourdough or whatever, but
Sourdough.
what I find is that it has to be very, for me and even Mario, it's got to be very minimal. For me, the most. Mario can eat a little bit more than I can on that level, but for me it's like I can have it here and there, but if I have it more than I don't even know, once a
Mm,
week or whatever, and that's even more than I have it anyway, it does not sit right with me. But for
mm,
me, it was activity. It was also cutting out really crappy food. And so for my weight loss journey, it happened for me around 19. I was always kind of on the chubbier side. And then as I went into college, like I gained a lot of weight in high school. That's where I gained most of my weight.
mm,
And so it was like fast food, it was eating whatever you
right.
wanted. It was hanging out with a lot of other people who could eat anything they wanted and never gain weight. And then,
Mhm,
we go to McDonald's, you go to Taco Bell, you go all these places. I'm eating the exact same thing as everybody, but I'm just packing it on, right? And I just
mm,
wasn't active. I stopped playing softball. I got into drama. And so it was just like,
mhm,
I lost that activity. And then I went to college and kind of did the typical, you go to college, you start partying, then you start drinking, whatever. And I gained a lot of weight in between probably my junior year to freshman year of college. And I had this, and it was a blessing, but I lived in the dorms, and you have a bunk bed, right? And a call came through early in the morning one morning, and it was for me. And my roommate answered it, and she climbed up the bed and handed me the phone. And it's totally an embarrassment, like vain moment, I guess. But my shirt was up, so my belly was exposed.
mm.
And I remember thinking that day, like, wow, she saw my belly and it embarrassed the hell out of me. And it was the catalyst though that got me. And so it might be a vain thing because it was like, wow, someone saw this belly of mine that I'm very self-conscious about and I'm not addressing it, right? And so from there I was like, you know what? I need to start making changes because I
Mm.
also was like sleeping in past class and all this stuff, and it's like I had this epiphany of like, wait, I'm paying money to be here. I'm choosing to be in college and I'm literally kind of like wasting it away. And thankfully, I came to these conclusions on my own within like the first or second semester of freshman year. And it was just like I went into like beast mode. I was like, okay, no more bad food. I just cut everything out. I wasn't drinking anymore. I started working out and I just started losing weight. And my friends around me at the time were just like, it was almost like they weren't as supportive as I thought. Like it was like they made fun of me.
Yeah.
So instead
Mhm.
of going out, I was like, "No, I'm good." And then I would like go down to the little like gym treadmill thing and walk on the treadmill and whatever. I'd get up
Mhm.
really early, I'd go running and stuff. And I realized that they actually weren't really on my side and it was really strange. But it motivated me because I'm like, I'm doing
Oh,
something
cool.
right. I'm doing something right
Yep.
because I'm these people are like I don't know. It was just very strange. But anyway, long story short, all in all, over the course of about a year, I ended up losing about 65 pounds. And it
Wow.
was just like, it came off really quickly and I was working out and it was just like that same feeling of like I looked at myself, I was like, I've never looked like this before. And
Right.
I felt the most amazing I'd ever felt. And then that was when I realized like I have a thing with food. And it's just this was my thing. And so
Uh-huh.
anyway, that was kind of how it happened for me. And I just continued to motivate myself. And on the mystical side of it, kind of in the midst of that, my step grandfather passed away. And I was really close with him. And I was at the gym one day and I was running on the treadmill and I wanted to stop so bad. And I was just like, I just want to stop. And I felt somebody or something pushing my back.
Oh, mhm.
And I kind of like looked behind. I'm like, there's nobody there. And I'm like, that's Grandpa. Grandpa Larry is saying, keep going. And I just kept going. And then it was just like,
Wow.
there was like nothing that could have stopped me, is how it felt.
Wow, how cool, man. What a
Yeah.
cool experience.
It was awesome. It was super cool. And so for me, it's just like when I hear stories like yours and other people who have kind of just come to these conclusions and been able to take it upon themselves to do it. And it's not to say that you shouldn't reach out for help. You know, if you're
Right.
needing motivation, or some people like to work out with other people because it's motivating and they like group things or whatever, and that's fine. It's like whatever you end up finding that works for you,
Mhm.
great. You know, um,
Exactly.
and so it's just it's really cool to hear these stories. And I think that I always kind of I love talking about these things because I want to be able to help someone else that might be in that rut of feeling like
Mhm.
I need to make a change. You know, I really need to make a change. And sometimes hearing these stories that we're sharing can be that thing that like helps someone over that hump, right?
Yeah.
So
Hopefully. That's why we do
hopefully.
it, you know?
Yep.
Because I mean, I've been inspired before, so, hopefully it'll come back.
Yeah.
Like guys like Snake, a lot of people in this community are like Lindsay Sharman is like insanely inspirational. Like she and I have like it's weird how and Abby, like the the connections that we've made that are so similar, like the weird synchronicities between us are just astounding. And
Interesting.
if we hadn't found these communities, like how would we know? We wouldn't even know. So we're not alone in the hey buddy, we're not alone in the world
Group.
ever. That's the thing
No.
is this network that we have, this web, our web, and I love that the spiders have become this community bigger than itself. Like since we started that thing, like since I started, I'm so grateful that that thing is kind of blossomed. And without me, like I just kept, I, it was part of another discipline. Like even if you don't want to do it, keep showing up because you need to
Mhm.
put yourself out there for somebody. So as long as Jim kept sending me a link, I kept showing up. And thank God for him, because we've met all these crazy, awesome people because of this. And if you don't have a Telegram, look, every spider probably has a Telegram channel or some sort of group, their Instagrams, maybe we probably do need a spider directory, but this web is bigger than ourselves and we're like connecting in very cool ways. People are fucking getting married now all of a sudden, all
I
over the place.
know. It's incredible, and
What?
we're, like, reweaving this tapestry that has holes in it, you know, and I think that that's part of it's even part of, like, more of the Norse tradition of, like, the tradition of weaving, the spinners, you know, the spinners of the universe are kind of, like, spinning these threads
Right.
to fill these holes, and I think that we all as a collective are doing that, and that's one of the things I wanted to, make sure to say is that you totally you pulled me into that web, man, and I am so grateful for it. And I almost get emotional talking about it because that was such a very like potent time for me. And I remember when Mario was starting to connect with Chance, and then Mario was starting to go on spiders, and we both were just like, wow, there's some amazing people that we're finding right now. And I remember thinking, you know what, maybe I'll put my newsletter up on the spiders chat, what do I have to lose kind of thing. And I remember having anxiety about it because I hadn't really met anybody or whatever. And I was like, well, I hope I don't feel like I'm imposing or whatever. And I remember putting it out there and you just reaching out and saying, hey, this is really cool. Do you want to come on Spiders and talk about it? And I was like, wow, cool. That's awesome. And you just were you were that catalyst for me to come and talk with you guys. And then Chance opening up and inviting me on Vibrant. It was just this thing that it was like, wow, that was the thing you had to do, even though you were a little nervous to even do it, to engage.
Mhm.
And then turns out those times when you're too nervous to maybe do something or whatever, usually are kind of like the most beautiful things, and you never know what's going to happen. And so I'm just like very grateful to you for doing that. And then I remember you saying like, I didn't even know you were Mario's
I
boyfriend.
wasn't, dude. I was such a fan of Mario's stuff already. Like immediately, Chance, had him on or whatever. I think that's how I found Mario, and then
Mm-hmm.
I checked out his stuff, and then you popped in, and I checked out your stuff. I'm like, oh, you like to teach you, and I was going through this thing right at the time too, where I was trying to. I I was in this spot where I was like, I would rather teach you this thing rather than do it for you, that kind of thing, so that I could like show somebody how to do this thing. And I can't remember what it was. It was either a meditation or uh, energy work or something like that. But I was like, oh, you like doing that too. I'm like, those are the kind of people that are, and I could see you're a natural teacher. That
Thank you.
like when I checked out your Instagram or your YouTube, I think it was, I'm like, oh, she's just a natural teacher. And Mario like had this bitchin', just his aesthetic is so cool. Like I was really envious of all his Instagram stuff because it's so pro, man. When I was in high school, I was I worked in a screen printing shop and I did some logos, but I used to love poring over those old books. And we had it was an old shop, and we had all these books of symbols, because you use this in printing all over the place, and especially in university stuff. Like we had all the Greek stuff and the symbols for each of those Greek things, and they had millions of versions of it, which would bleed into like the Freemason stuff, all the time. And I'm like, I'm seeing some patterns here, and having family that were Freemasons, I'm like, oh man, I need to check that stuff out. And I was always digging into that stuff. So when Mario like shows his books and stuff and those art, I'm like, that's my jam. Yeah. Love that, dude. So
Nice.
you guys are a joy, man, especially like finding out, you guys posted something with Bad Brains as the soundtrack. And I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck yeah, that is rad. I saw Bad Brains and it was either 88 or 87, but it was like my real initiation into punk rock
Oh,
was
dude,
seeing
that's
Bad
awesome.
Brains. And I was like, oh, like everything changed,
Yeah, I bet, man. I can
I'm
only
like, oh
imagine.
my God. Oh, I was leading worship at a mega church at the time.
Wow.
and,
And you're
and
like, bad brains, bad
I'm
brains.
like, oh my God, I have to give everything up.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's funny that you bring up Bad Brains because we've been thinking about an intro song for last Thursday, and we were going through all the music that where we click together. There's a handful of
Mm-hmm.
things like we're on different spectrums with a lot of it, but then there's a few that we really connected on even early on in our relationship where it was like, oh, you like them too, cool or whatever. But Bad Brains was one of them, and so we were talking about the song The Meek maybe being like the intro song for last Thursday.
If you can get away with it.
If we can get away with it, that's the thing is like, well,
Just
the copyright stuff and
who's
all
paying
that or whatever.
attention? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, oh, love it. But thank you for
That's
all
awesome.
those kind words because yeah, we've felt like, and for so long, just like being transparent, like throughout my life, gosh, for so long, even just like with the herbalist community and stuff like that, like I've just never felt like I found my people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we started hanging out with all of you guys. And I just remember me being like, I think I'm finding my people. Like, and I just like that weight loss thing, looking at yourself in the mirror, going, like, I've never seen my collarbone like this, or I've never seen,
Yeah.
all these things. I was like, oh my goodness, my people for all these years and all the times where Mario and I would have emotional conversations where I'd be, I feel like I'm just disconnected from these things or whatever. And then having that feeling of finding your people is just, it's such a really cool thing. And so everybody that's here, Gordy included, I just feel like I'm so grateful for all of y'all. And it's just been super awesome to kind of allow myself to be myself.
Yeah, isn't it
And do
relieving? Oh my God.
yeah, it's
I
so
love that.
relieving.
Well, that
It
was the
is.
greatest part about it is I got so fucking sick and tired of having to put on airs for other people. Like
Yes.
I can't talk to people in my normal life. I work in an educational system. Like you understand how dragging out a coherent conversation out of these people during COVID was?
Oh my God.
Like it was, oh, thank God I had a position where everybody left me alone. And the other thing is these guys, I was the only one at the district office many times for like a couple months even, I feel like off and on. And like I'm like, this is awesome. I just get to sit out with owls all day. I'm like, fine, you people stay the fuck home. This is great. But I think there are people like they're starting to wake up, you know, they're starting to I understand people. This is a a the reset is going to be you.
Yep. Well said.
People think that this great reset is out there. Yes, it is. It's happening. You can't deny it. But the great reset is you. You're getting reset. If you haven't done it already, you're going to need to. And so listen to people like Michelle who have done
And
it, who
Gordy.
have helped you through this, you know, because it sucks sometimes. And I get it. It's fucking scary. But you know what? It's okay. It's greater. It's greater and less than you think it is, if that makes sense. And this is where the mystical understanding of the universe really comes in handy, because this whole understanding of both things being true will let you go and having to re-evaluate all of your core beliefs from scratch. That's the reset, and that's what's going to set you free.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. That is seriously exactly what it is. And no, it's like, because it's, and it's one of the more comforting things that I always go back to, and it's very cliche, but, at the end of the day, when you're laying in bed, I always think it's like it's you. You're alone.
Mm,
You're alone in this. Or, and yes, you have loved ones, you have people that you value and all these things, but at the end of the day, it is about it's about how you conduct yourself and how you
yeah.
heal and how you choose to do these things that is going to determine everything. And so, it's I brought this up before, but going back to that kind of like remembering, you are the pole, you are the totem here,
Mm-hmm.
you're in charge.
Yep.
My friend has a really great practice of cutting cords and talking about how cutting the cords
Yeah.
energetically and in your mind, like seeing every night before you go to bed, like
Yes.
literally cutting every single cord, even the cords to the people that are like the most, your husband, wife, mother, child. You cut those all, because those really important cords that are your core, that are connected to you in the most truest of ways, will come back in a good way. And it's like that practice of just like cutting that away, and then the true chords will reform in a healthier each time. And I think it's a beautiful like practice to put into just motion in your life, even symbolically, energetically, emotionally. That's helped me a lot, because there's always those things that you don't realize sometimes, the cords that might be connected that are actually sucking your energy a bit, and you don't see it. Just like we're talking about, the owls were coming and hooting down the chimney. You didn't,
Mm-hmm.
they were swirling around. You didn't see it until you saw it. And the same thing goes with these energetic cords that we put onto anything, not even just people. It could be a thought form or whatever,
Right.
place you have to go, that might be sucking your energy.
Right. Yeah. The soul sucking job that you have to do every day. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. A lot of people have that. We all have that,
Yeah.
at
Yep.
some point in our lives. It's all right. You can let that go too. Because if you're defining yourself by that job, maybe start there,
Yeah. And I think, go ahead.
No, I just that whole change thing. It's happening to a lot of people, I think, suddenly. And, like I just appreciate that people like you would be willing to go out there and be that for those people, at least, to bounce off of and put those ideas out here like this,
Yeah, totally. And it's like, thank you, because it's been knocking at my door for a couple years now. And I just kind of kept pushing it,
Same.
okay. You know what I mean? And it just wasn't the time. And just like anything, it's like when you're ready, when the student's ready, the teacher appears, and I feel like that's how this podcast has been. It was so clear to me. I was getting hits every single day from spirit, from my guides, from everything, that I couldn't
Right.
not
You can't not ignore it
I
anymore.
can't
Yeah.
ignore it. It's so loud. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, if you keep ignoring it, it's just like, why, And so, but one of the things that I was thinking of when we were just talking about realizing it's like, it's going to be all about you making the shift and stuff like that, is like one of the biggest things that helped me to kind of work through a lot of more of the shadow work or the darker aspects of myself was just forgiving yourself, like the self-forgiveness, and how far that goes, and then forgiving others as well, even
Mhm.
if they've wronged you to the point where you never want to see them again. It doesn't, I think, in personal experience, it doesn't really start to kind of the wheel of healing doesn't really start to happen until you start to do practices like
Right.
forgiving yourself, forgiving
Right.
others for all the things that have happened, and not dwelling in the past, and not, it's like, instead of, I heard, out of all the people, I heard Steve-O, Steve-O, jackass Steve-O, say this.
Huh.
Every once in a while I tune into him, because the thing about Steve-O is that he's kind of an idiot, and the things he does is like, okay, whatever. But when he talks about sobriety and his journey, like, if I had advice for Steve-O, or if I met Steve-O or something, I'd be like, dude, lay into that. Lean into your experience with your sobriety, because he has brilliant points to talk about. And that was one of the things that he like talked about the most, was like, he kind of went through a similar situation, checked himself into a freaking, mental not
Mhm.
psych ward, but just a place where
It
he
is.
could
There's the
be.
psych ward right now, right? It's part of
Very
it.
So it's
Yeah.
like he checked himself in. He was in for however long he signed the papers for. He was
Right.
suicidal. And he said, I had the huge epiphany of like, okay, I am so guilty about all the stupid things I've done, all the people I've hurt. And he's like, this epiphany came over me and was like, okay, I can either stay here and keep thinking about all the things that are making me feel guilty or whatever, and then think that killing myself is the only solution, or
Right.
I can just stop doing that. I can just stop
Right.
being guilty about this. I can stop dwelling on it, and I can move forward with it. Is that hard to do? Fuck yeah, it is. It's easier said than done. Well, just move
Mhm.
on, Well, sometimes that's like the best advice you could hear, but it feels like it's the worst advice. But him
Mhm.
saying that, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. The longer you stew in the past, the more depressed you're going to get, the more
Yep.
regretful you're going to get, the more you're going to spin this hamster wheel of all the negative emotions that ultimately got you to the place you're in.
Right.
So I think like these like little reminders of that can go a long way. And just, be forgiveness is a huge, huge thing that is very helpful.
And the mindfulness of being in your body
Hmm.
too, that's how you're not living in the past. You're living now. You're living right here. And mindfulness is about time too, you know.
Totally.
And we were talking about visualization, visualizing that cutting cord as a metaphor. Your visualization is your most powerful thing. That's the other mystic thing, that all is mind is a real thing. Like, you can control a lot more than you think you can by your thought and your action. And here, you understand your actions have reaction, but your thoughts have reactions too. Like, you react to how your thoughts are. Even if you don't think you are, you will end up pushing that narrative. Whatever you're believing, you're going to make that happen to some extent. If you keep punishing yourself and being that self-sabotage and living there because of that shit you never dealt with as a kid, it's always going to be there until you get there, until you go back there and figure it out. So be mindful of time too. This visualization doesn't just mean visualizing yourself, healthy, which you can do too in meditation. That's a very big thing. But, more than that, you can transcend time with this.
Definitely.
You go back to your younger self. And when you are that kid, you can talk to yourself and let a lot of that shit go. What would you say to yourself when that happened to you?
Yes.
Going back there and living, don't live in your trauma, but you got to visit it to make sure it's not, infected.
Oh, totally. And actually, this reminds me exactly of something Chance had brought up in the interview I did with him. When was that? It was a handful of months ago when I had him on the show, episode 6. But he talked about that same thing because he was talking about his shoulder injury, and then I brought up my shoulder injury, and he was like, "Okay, I'll ask you, or a good practice would be go back to that moment in your mind and be with yourself in that moment when that happened, and almost like kind of like forgive yourself in that moment, but like nurture yourself and be just reassure yourself that it's okay that this is happening, and that being like a catalyst for beginning to heal whatever's stemming from that injury, right?
Acknowledgement.
And it totally. And I did it. And I was just like, wow. I mean, I went to the beach where I was at. I went to the feeling I had. I was like in the emotion. And then lo and behold, I realized like what that emotion was that I was harboring or whatever that I felt in that moment when the injury happened. And it was quite profound because then it allowed me to even open up about the story even more. And then just like bringing it up to Mario. He's heard these stories about my injury many times, but I was like, I think I'm like cracking a different code here because I like went back and like allowed myself to be with myself in that moment. And I don't even think I was with myself in that moment when it actually freaking happened.
Right. You definitely weren't. That's how we dealt with that shit. We disassociated. It's what we do. And you get really good at that. You can be vulnerable to a lot of different things.
Definitely.
Addiction is a big one.
Yeah, no, it truly is. And so, to circle back, because we're coming on to the hour and a half mark, I want to circle back to the owls a little bit.
Yes.
So when you were, so you were meditating under the tree, you both acknowledged each other, so what was it about the owls that helped you stay on the path you were on to continuing to be sober, then leading you to the weight loss? What if there's one or a couple things that comes to mind, what the owls did for you or provided you with to stay strong and then to further, your journey with all this stuff?
You've heard this concept of unfuckwithable, right? It's or the cleaner version that Sean likes to use, imperturbability. A little harder to say, but it's fun too. I like unfuckwithable. But to get the countenance of an owl, they don't, I watched them one time. There was a snake. Where the nest is, there's kind of a yard, but it's 2 big walls. And every once in a while, rattlers will make it around the tree, but they don't really mess with them. But one found, it was trying to find the nest. It was around there. And I watched both of them sit there and watch it, but they weren't going to do anything. They didn't, as long as it didn't, try harder, as long as it wasn't an actual threat, and they knew it, they just watched it. They didn't care. I was freaking out. This thing is going to get your babies, and they're like, okay, yeah, we got it. We can tear it. And they know they can take care of it. this is the thing, when you're in the presence of an owl, there's a majesty kind of like just a depth of, what was the word? Depth of dimension, dimensionality. That's more than just a bird. When you're in a presence of a hummingbird, it's a specific energy. When you're in the presence of the morning doves around here, it's a specific energy. When you're in presence of an owl, it's very different. And that imperturbability was what got me through a lot of it. That they knew, if I was going to match them, and they know how badass they are. They have been, it's an owl, it's a great horned owl. There's not much that needs to be said other than that. Like, they just sit in it. They're just, they're not going to be afraid of you until you're a threat. And they will sit and intimidate you. They've actually attacked some guys at work, and they won't do me. And they're like, how come they don't do that? I'm like, because you're not chill, man. Like, the line I told them was, because you're full of McDonald's and bullshit, which is also true. But I'm like, you guys just chill out. Like, get that chill, the imperturbability. Like, once I realized that, like, man, you got through that. You got through that clean. Now you just got to get there. Like, what do they have? They know how badass they are. Dude, you're kind of a badass too. Recognizing not just your faults, but your strengths as well. Like, you're not a pussy, man. You just proved it to the world. Even if nobody ever knows it, you know it.
Bingo.
If nobody ever heard your story in the world, you do. And being authentic to that and telling the truth when it's asked of you, yeah, it makes a difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So that's, the imperturbability of a great horned owl, the countenance of nature, and, in all types of nature. I've tried to do that with all sorts of animals now that I've really felt connection with, and you have to be on their energy. And the same thing with your food. Is it what's calling to me right now? Being mindful of, maybe I don't need that turmeric this morning. I should maybe add more salt,
Yep. Tuning into the intuitive sense that you get.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things fasting taught me was, because it helps you realize that you eat, a lot of times you're eating because maybe you feel like you should eat, or someone said that you're supposed to eat 3 meals a day, or, whatever it is. And I really like tuning in to find out, are you actually really hungry, or is it just something is there emotional thing happening? Are you bored? Do you just feel like you should eat because whatever? And just the power of our own intuition is so important to realize. And that is one of the things that will get you through some of these things as well. Because I think even with addictions, deep down, even when you're in an addiction, and I can't say I've been addicted to like hard drugs or anything, but definitely alcohol, definitely food, even coffee to a certain extent, like for me, my latest thing has been coffee, and realizing like, well, do you really need it, or do you just want it? Or is it like a thing? There's an attachment to it. I have an emotional attachment to it that I can definitely admit, it's like just being able to check in and ask if it's really necessary. And I think that in society in general, we're really not taught to, ask the question. It's just react or respond really quickly, without like tuning in,
Right.
And I think that goes a long way. Or like muscle testing is a big thing that I do.
Oh, yeah.
it's huge, and it totally it comes through pretty much every time. With if it's something that do I really want do I should I will I have will this cup of coffee benefit me right now if I drink it? And doing the muscle
Right.
testing on it, it really comes through, and some it's very clear a lot of times to me if you get a straight yes or a straight no, and it's just another kind of like, tool you can have in your back pocket for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing is being quiet and listening to your body. And like you're saying, it's all the intuition is all about the mindfulness as well. And
Yeah.
the visualization.
Yes. And I love hearing what the owls provided for you, to get you or keep you on that track. That's so
Yeah, dude.
beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, get me talking about them. I'll just keep going.
Nice.
Um, I just there's so many lessons. It's everything. It's just like Mario was talking about the um the orbits of the eyes, being the torsion. And I've been looking at that thing for 4 years until Mario said it, and I'm like, see, you know, I'm I'm like, yes, like this is nature. And when I got that out of, it's not out of body, but it is kind of, I guess, maybe that mystical experience where you're looking at you're in the liminal space mentally.
Mhm.
You're in the liminal space and you see the universe outside of itself. You see your body and you see your spirit, and you kind of see how the universe works in this kind of fractilinear I kind of fucking hate that word matrix, but a web, fractilinear web that we're all connected in. And if it wasn't for this event, and then this event, you wouldn't be here. Thank God for those terrible events in your life. You're finding your fucking superpower, some of you people.
Yeah. Oh my god. And these things, it's earned,
Yep.
just like all of these things we're talking about, specifically the addiction, the weight loss, all these realizations, it doesn't feel good to sometimes work out. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it, whatever, but it's good for you. So sometimes you push through and sometimes you don't. There's going to be pain. There's going to be pain with all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All of the looking at the depths of your soul, of the past events, the things that have shaped you, to repair these things, there's pain. And that's just like, it's the natural. I just feel like it's like
Mm-hmm.
one of the natural processes of life. You're not going to get something that changes your life with no hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why too, it's just it's unfortunate that our society looks at health in the way it does, where it's just more about suppression. Yes, oh, you can take this pill and then your blood pressure will go down, whatever, and you don't have to even change anything about your habits. Oh, it's just like, to
Right.
me, the fact that it's still working on people, it's disturbing, but it's not surprising, because all of these things having to do these major shifts of life, major changes, it's really hard, and it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of strength, inner strength, physical strength, mental strength, all the strengths, spiritual strength as well. And I just think that as a society, we're kind of just not we're not really prepared for this stuff. So if you don't have some kind of um guidance from your own self or another person in your life showing you the way, it's even harder. And so yeah, it's an interesting situation, I think, and I think it is starting to crumble. People are kind of starting to learn this stuff a little bit, and then I look at some other things, and I'm like, actually, maybe they're not. But the only thing I could do is just know that everybody's on their own journey, and appreciate that, and give them compassion to the point where, okay, I just know that that's like not where I want to spend my time. But if you want to spend your time there, totally cool. Go for it.
Mhm.
That's great. If that's what you feel is your journey, and they're all on their own journey, so that's all you can do. And
Mhm.
that's been one of the things that's helped me with even just putting out information, is to look at it from, I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. At the end of the day, I that's like the last thing I'm trying to do. It's just
Mhm.
literally trying to bring things up to the surface that maybe somebody might not have found otherwise. But to
Mhm.
convince somebody to that they need to do something, or you need to wake up, this is it, this is happening, it's just like, well, you're going to spin your wheels for a little while if you're stuck in that
Mhm.
longing to wake everybody up around you. It's just kind of a trap that I found happens a lot in the truther community kind of
Mhm.
thing too.
And I get it. You found Jesus. You got
Right.
to feel like you got to proselytize. It's part of the process, I guess. It's the same thing with AA. These guys like get in and they got to save every drunk out there, because that their trauma um, just got replaced with another addiction, which
Yes.
is the either religion, Jesus, or AA, or whatever it is. You're just replacing it with another thing. And okay, great. That's great if you're doing AA and it keeps you off of that addiction. I mean, that there are worse, but still you're giving away your power every time you stand up and say the words that they are convinced, programming you to say, keeping you in your addiction. You have to stand up, state your name and your addiction, that what you are addicted to, or I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a opium addict, or I never heard that. What am I saying? But I went to AA and NA for a while. I'm just gonna do it until I don't have to, because I'm like, you know, those people aren't ready for me either. Like
Right.
I went in there realizing after a couple of counselors, like I can't really help them either, but I've got to use this to get there. So it's not like I could be honest with them about everything, but I had to get it through the process. So sometimes you got to use the resources that are there. You don't have to do it the way that they do, or the way that they say you have to. You can do better than that, even.
Yeah, that makes sense, because it goes along with the whole thing, is like it's not a one size fits all world. Even though our society makes it seem that way, just like, okay, this one medication will work for everybody, or this one food everybody can eat. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Every single thing affects everybody differently. And so it's like, once you find these things and how it works for you, that's when the real magic happens. And the same thing with like something like AA or whatever, taking the maybe taking the basis of what they do, but applying it to your life in a way that works for you. And that is where I think a lot of the healing can come, is when you actually really genuinely adjust it for yourself. Don't use an excuse to leave something out because it's going to be hard, to do. That'll
Right.
be really hard. So, well, yeah, that actually won't work for me. It's like you have to be honest with yourself. It's like, well, if you wake up at 5 a.m. And then this works for you because you wake up at 5 a.m., the same routine isn't going to work for somebody who wakes up at 10 a.m., because they're going to might lose some time or whatever it is. It's just interesting that that's how kind of society looks at things. I mean, even when you're like shopping for clothing or something like that, small, medium, large, it's like, do you really think that that's how the world is? It's just everybody's a small, medium, or a large.
Right. I have nine and a half quadruple E feet. Like nobody carries that size ever.
Right. That's hilarious. Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
use what you can, but try it. Do the steps, and do the talking with the people, because understanding other people's stories might really help you. Listening to somebody's journey, having to go through that, understanding, you may not be alone in how you feel.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
And then hearing other people's stories, or just being receptive to hearing someone's stories, might actually help you. It will help you to understand them better. And then it might actually help to explain maybe something you've seen them do. Maybe you've
Mm,
observed something that somebody does and you're kind of like, huh. And then maybe you learn a story about them and then you're like, oh, okay, well, that's why they reacted this way, because they went through this when they were 5 or whatever. It's kind of like that's how I've looked at astrology, because I think astrology and astrological charts and stuff can be very valuable. That study is very valuable because there's things that have been pointed out to me about my chart specifically, where I've been like, "Oh my god, well no wonder why," or whatever.
um,
And then it can be taken to a place where it can be used as avoidance too. It can be used as a tool
right,
as an avoidance. Well, you have this square because this, that, and the other thing. And so it's always going to be hard for you to do that.
right.
Okay, well, that's a challenge. That's a challenge then. That
Hmm.
that is where you need to then maybe put a little bit more effort in, instead of just saying, "Well, I can't do it because I have this square." Oh, okay, I'll just
Right.
never do that. It's just like, no, 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 no. It's how you use the tool. And so, yeah, anyway, it's not a one size fits all.
For all of us, like
Yep.
everybody's struggling with something.
Yep,
It's
totally.
not, this isn't just, when I say addiction, this could be a million different things, social
Mhm.
media, or like, if I'm on Instagram loving all the stupid owl videos and armadillos and stuff like that, otters. I mean, it's, how much is it programming me, you know? And you testing the muscle testing, every time I see a paranoid American uh, post where he's using AI to make something that probably could have been really real. Like that thing he did with Alf creeped me the fuck out.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't see it,
talk
but
about a muscle testing. I'm like, and this is something I know is fantasy. I know it's not real, but if it eats at your core a little bit, or gives you a feeling in your solar plexus or something like that, you maybe should pay attention, or your back, depending on, people feel it differently. I always kind of, sometimes I feel things in the backs of my legs, when something doesn't feel right, you know, uh, listen to your body when you're in a situation too. If this doesn't feel right, don't sign a contract.
yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And then you can take it a step further once you find out that step of listening to your body. One of the things I did was, then I kind of went through everything in my life and then realized when when you had those sensations, and when you kind of you turned a blind eye, or you didn't pay attention to it or whatever. And then, well, what happened? Okay, well, then that happened and it wasn't very good. Okay, well, that makes sense because I didn't listen to myself. you know, it really can help
Exactly. Hmm.
put things into perspective. And that's a really great, just little piece of advice, that it's simple, but it can be challenging to adopt, especially if you've never really done it and you're starting to try and do it. And yeah, it's a practice. It's just like a muscle.
Yep. Being in your body, because we live so disconnected. How do we even know we're in the situation sometimes? Like, oh, yes, click. Oh, I need to get this. I need to accept this on my phone, or I need to accept this on my computer. And do you know what you're accepting to? We don't have any clue. How many people read? Like, and you probably should have the whole time. Like, everybody knew that our privacy was gone the minute, AOL was doing weird stuff. Like AOL, 90s, 2000s. Like, we all, in the tech, people knew this stuff was out there. And it's disturbing to understand that we have to be at a point where that's not a reality anymore. You know, when we were kids, they talked about the right to privacy. that just isn't even a thing.
Yeah, no. And it's being freely like advertised that it's not almost, but it's
Hmm.
all of this stuff has been integrated so deeply now into everybody's life that it's like it's second nature to just get a little thing where, oh, it says I need to accept that they can look at my photos, okay, or they can
Right.
now they can look at all of my whatever I just accepted, but you don't really think about it because you want to post a post and you want to get to the photo, so you just accept it and then you don't realize what you really accepted. And so it's just the integration is kind of coming full circle now in a on a deeper level from what I can see, and it'll be interesting as we move forward.
Right.
Just we'll leave it at that on that one because who knows? I mean, I don't know. Will there be Neuralink? Will there be chips? Are there already chips? I I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yes.
Right? That's a big yes.
um,
uh,
but the integration part is the big thing. You know, it's you have to understand the game that's being played, but understand that we can play it too. You are not disempowered. I understand that people like feel completely helpless right now, but you're not, because we have to integrate all those things, for the health of us, and that mindfulness, being aware of everything, in your body, being present, just even to help your own relationships. You're
yeah.
doing it for you, but you're doing it for them too, so that you're better.
Definitely. And that's like that's the beauty of a healthy relationship right there too. Because when you help your partner ends up helping you, and it's this ping 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 ping,
Hmm.
and then you start to realize that wow, we're just continuously helping each other because we're seeing these things. And that's the other thing of pattern recognition, of when you have a true partner who has your back, or a true friend, they're not afraid to say when you may have done something that you maybe shouldn't have done, or hey, just a constructive criticism, maybe think about doing it this way instead of that way. And to be able to take in the constructive criticism, it takes practice as well, because a lot of times when someone tells you, well, maybe you want to do it a different way, a lot of times the first reaction is defensiveness. Oh, well, what do you mean I did it wrong? Oh, okay, I must just be wrong about everything. It's like, no, don't get defensive. It's a
Yeah.
constructive thing,
Hmm.
and that's been something that I've learned over the course of my relationship with Mario too, is just like sometimes tough love is the best fucking love you can get, and it hurts, and you can't
Yep.
believe that it happened or whatever. But sometimes those moments when they look at you, your partner or your friend looks at you, and you just know that they're like, no, dude, like that's not cool. Like what are you doing? And that mirror comes up. It can be painful, but it just, if you have a person in your life or people in your life that do that for you, like that is valuable, and it's worth holding on to,
Oh
just
yeah.
like as tight as you can, because
Hmm.
whoa, yeah, it only helps both people. So indeed, it's beautiful.
They do it because they love you.
Yep,
You know.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, Gordy, my friend, I want you to know that I loved this conversation so much.
Me
And I'm
too. This
so,
was great.
this was awesome. And I just, like we said backstage, let's just let it flow. And this was awesome because we went into all the avenues that I really wanted to hit with you. And then we went into some new ones that it was just really fun to be in. So I really appreciate your time, really, and really value our friendship and love watching what you're doing, and hearing your story has been super great and very healing, because it's just nice to hear some of the more challenging parts of what you've gone through. And now I can kind of see even more of a clear vision of why you have such a strong connection with these birds and what they mean to you. And now every time I see you posting things, and I have a better concept and a better just context for your deep love and resonance with them. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for
And
letting me share.
Oh God, of course, anytime. And I don't think it's going to be the last. So with all
Right
that, can
on.
you just let other people know where you can be found? And if they want to contact you or have a chat, where can they find you?
Yeah, I have the Mystic Inheritance Conspiratorium on. I know it's a long name. I just call it the Conspiratorium. It's my smaller group. It's not smaller group. I have smaller groups. I don't know what I'm saying. Find me at t.me/mystic studies is the Conspiratorium group. I have at Gordy _TWO _shoes is my Instagram. You'll find all the owls there. And I'm sharing old stuff too, because I realized that I didn't ever get a chance to share a lot of the early stuff because I wanted to experience it. I was more valuing the time because I knew it was special, you know. So I didn't want to share everything, and I still don't share everything, but I share as much as you know, I have an agreement with them to put the camera up, which Catherine O'Shea, helped me get that. She talked to them for me, and then I realized, oh, wow, I think I can do this too. And so talking about these things and sharing different people's magic, shows other people that they can do this. So thanks for sharing yours too.
Oh yeah, thank you. Of course, I'm happy to do it, and it's been fun time sharing it. And I feel like I learn more and more about myself the more I share. And yeah, it's like what it's all about. I love hearing people's stories. It's another reason why I started the podcast, and it's one of the things that I always felt was lacking within kind of like the truther community, or even experiences
Yeah.
I've had with other people in real life. Like we've been blessed to have a group of people for over a decade in our life that we can talk about a lot of these crazy things with. We would go to meetings and have potlucks and all this stuff. And one of the things I would always walk away from the meetings from was feeling as though, yeah, it's great to talk about all this crazy shit, but like I want to hear like their story. Like I want to know about them. I want to hear how their day was. It would just be go to these meetings, you just go right into it. Oh God, I had this and that and the other thing. Oh, it's all crumbling, and it's like, but I feel like I'm not being able to talk to people and find out who they are. And so again, just the fact that you shared what you did, it really helps to just help me feel as though I'm now I feel more connected to you and I know you a little bit better. And even though we're just online, it's just like that's to me one of the most important things about just having people in your life is take time to learn each other's story, ask questions, just literally asking somebody how their day is could literally open up a conversation that you would have never had otherwise. So yeah, the feeling is mutual for sure.
Yeah. So cool.
Oh,
Thank you.
all
Thanks
righty.
again.
Thank you. Have a really great night. All Gordy's links are down below for anybody who wants to find him. And yeah, thank you again, Gordy. Have a really
Thanks,
nice night.
Michelle. You
Yep.
too.
Take
Good
care.
night.
Bye-bye. All righty, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. What a lovely freaking conversation. God, that was so much fun. What I'm learning with this is I usually, I do prep work before each interview for myself, for the guest. And I usually will have questions and I'll have notes and everything else. And that's how I am. I operate that way. I like having the structure, but I always find so much beauty in the fact that a lot of times the conversation just goes where it's going to go. And that's been one of my things that I've wanted to get better with is just allowing things to flow and being more present in the moment instead of trying to project how a conversation is going to go or have an expectation or okay, I want to make sure. And there's things that I always want to make sure that I ask ask a person or whatever, but I've found that I feel more relaxed and I feel as though it probably makes the guests more relaxed when you just kind of allow these things to just, you know, organically happen how they're going to happen, right? So that's life, and that's one of the beauties of it. So as always, I have updates for you guys. If you want to stick around and find out what's going on next week's show, I'm going to be bringing on Kaylee Burkana. We're going to try this one more time here, my lady. Last time we had a little hiccup with her appearance, but next week, next Tuesday at 4 p.m., 328, I'm going to be talking to Kaylee Burkana about noble astrology and all the things that she does with her work. She is a wonderful astrologer who is very talented, has a knack. She has a really great intuitive sense about her as well. And so I appreciate what she does. And so we're going to get into it next week. So if you want to join us for that one, that'll be a really great time as well. Last Thursday, every Thursday, coming up this week again, this Thursday with Mario and I. Yeah, as I was just talking about, we're gonna let it flow. And it's been really fun just kind of coming maybe with a maybe some kind of idea of where we want to go, but then just allowing it to happen. And this week we're gonna actually have a call-in line and see how that goes, so we can interact with people a little bit more. So have a feeling it'll be something like you could leave a voicemail for us and then we could play it back, and then we can kind of interact a little bit more, because I could tell last time the chat, there were people in the chat that would have wanted to join us or maybe had things to say. So we're going to try and implement that this week, which will be very exciting. So come with your casual clothing and a drink in hand this Thursday. So the Healing Home is on Patreon. If you are wanting to show some support in any different sort of way, then maybe you don't feel like buying products, or maybe you don't feel like, having a consultation or something, but you feel like maybe you want to throw a little bit of abundance our way. Patreon.com/the Healing Home is a great way to do that. And all patrons will get my newsletter offering, my full moon offering. It'll be announced to you guys a day or two before the actual official announcement for everybody else. So it'll give you a chance to pre-order and be put on a wait list so that you can basically lock in a product before everybody else if you want to, which is a good thing, because a lot of times like right now I'm basically sold out of my strong, and I have maybe one or two of my strong and serene tinctures for this month. So sometimes things go quick. And so if you want to just maybe guarantee that you get something, you could become a patron, and I'd appreciate it. So speaking of strong and serene tincture, still do have a couple left. This stuff, I've been getting some really great reviews about it. I've had my own personal reviews. Our cats, I've been giving it to Carl. It's really been helping him. A lot of people are liking the flavor of it, which I like as well. The elderberry comes through really nicely because I added some blackberry honey to it. So there's a hint of sweetness. So kind of takes the bite off of the alcohol, and the fact that it's a double extract takes the bite off of the alcohol even further. So it's a really pleasant tasting tincture, which I'm always trying to go for. It's sometimes harder than it's one of the more challenging things actually, is to make tinctures taste good because it's kind of very potent and strong. But I got a suggestion from Sterling. He had mentioned that he's really liking it, and that he thought about even using it as flavoring for a mocktail. Even though there's alcohol in there's not that much. You could put a couple drops into some special drink that you make or something, and it would boost the flavor. It'd be really tasty. So I thought that was a really nice review and a good idea. Up on the screen, we've got my current menu. Right now, Strong and Serene still available, 1 ounce for $22. I still have 2 bottles of horseradish fire cider. And right now, the only CBD product I have right now is my CBD and St. John's wort massage oil. I've got 2 bottles of that left. Wonderful oil. And actually my dad and my stepmom have been loving it. They just purchased 2 more bottles, and they said that they've been using it every single day and just really enjoy it. And I enjoy it too. I use it as a body oil. I use it as a massage oil. I just use it all the time. I really, really like it. And It got a really nice scent to it. And the St. John's wort oil I made with fresh St. John's wort from our garden this past summer. And it is like seriously scarlet red, and it's very potent, and you can feel the sun energy. And along with the CBD, cannabis loves the sun too. So it's very sunny. It's a nice blend. michelleshealinghome@gmail.com for orders, consultations, questions, that's my website. So yeah, you can maybe field a question there. I do have a contact form, but if you have questions, have orders, you want to know what's going on, michelleshealinghome@gmail.com. You can email me or text me 503-568-1569. And that, my friends, is it. And I see Nomad's in the chat. Yes. My appearance with Nomad is going to be premiering tomorrow at noon on the Nomad Podcast YouTube channel. I am so happy about this interview. I had such a great time with Nomad. I told him this in the interview, but he has such a warmth to him, and he made me feel so comfortable, and he's a great host. He asked great questions, and we actually were able to cover a lot of ground in a short period of time. So if you guys are interested in learning about smoke blends and basically like some herbs that you might be able to grow inside, we also talked about anxiety, and we talked about how I personally was able to incorporate certain herbs and practices and the realizations I came to help my own anxiety subside a bit. And once I started finding out these very key roots in my life and events that happened to me, things I was avoiding, all this stuff, I realized what my anxiety was attached to. And then after realizing what my anxiety was attached to, I was able to find plants and listen to plants that were talking to me and telling me that they would be helpful for my journey to kind of like get over my anxiety. Never going to get rid of it, in my opinion. I feel like it's always something that can come up, but we just talked about, kind of some thought patterns that might keep you in more of an anxious state, and how you can ebb and flow with those and incorporate herbs to help you kind of get out of those thought patterns. So super great interview, really lovely information. And yeah, go check out Nomad on YouTube. He's also, I don't know if he's on Instagram. Maybe he is, he might be, but anyway, check him out on YouTube, and he's got a good thing going on. And yeah, check out that premiere tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time. I'll be announcing that as well. So with all that said, happy first day of spring, everybody. Enjoy the change in the season, even if it wasn't nice and sunny and warm where you're at. Know that the wheel has turned. The wheel's always turning, but we just clicked. It's almost like that wheel on what's it called? The Price is Right, where it's like the their big wheel that they spin. We kind of got through one of those big last clicks to get you to that prize, and this prize is spring, and the buds are coming out, and the critters are coming back alive, the birds are singing, the land is thawing, and the life is coming back. So enjoy that transition. Much love to y'all, and we'll see you very soon. Take care. Have a good night.